Time to hit the morning stand?
Is this part of the video?
No.
I didn't know if you're asking me or... I think it is. Do you think it is?
It's time.
Okay, I'll explain why. That's kind of how they all start for the most part. Or Dylan goes like, what's the sign? Like you go...
Yeah, it could be a nod or...
And then he goes like this for 10. Oh, real quick, I'll jump into this very fast. People wonder about this. It's not a cut, injury. I actually have trigger thumb, and the thumb actually locks like this. It actually pops back and forth. I just thought, I just rub the muscle, massage it, everything would be fine. Well, months later, it would lock, and I couldn't get it to open back up, and I had a lot of pain down in here. Should have gone to the doctor, but online on YouTube, I found this hand doctor, they call her, and she had hundreds of thousands of views, hundreds of comments, and she has some hand exercise for people that trigger thumb, because the alternatives are a shot, steroid shot, or surgery. Surgery doesn't always work. There's a lot of infection. So anyways, I've been doing these hand exercises now for maybe 5-6 weeks. They say you can do them for 3 or 4 months, and certain stretches, and basically it's getting better. So I use the tape as a splint to keep it from locking during the day, or especially when I'm sleeping. So I exercise it 3 times a day, and there you go. It's been working. So it's kind of a weird thing, probably from writing so many articles and books with my thumbs on my phone. That's probably what it's from throughout the years, who knows. Anyways, it's the time to sit in a morning stand. Dylan and I did this morning. Really, there's a lot of reason to sit. One of the biggest reasons is bucks will move around 2 to 3 times more during the morning hours than they will the afternoon hours. And that's during the rut even. Midday can be very light depending on the time. Yeah, during the peak rut, they'll run all over the place. But really, even then, morning times, right before dark when they're feeding, those are the big times. A lot of times when they're not being pressured, they're not being pushed, you'll see a lot of bucks just sitting during the day. They have to rest. So their choices are, look at it this way, their choices are they can rest in the morning, they can rest in midday, and they can rest in the evening. Well, evening they're going to food. They need to replenish because they've been sitting in a browse area in their bedding area, so they're not getting the best nutrition or the most volume during the middle of the day. Morning hours, it's cool, and they're really moving around. Even studies show that they move around 3 times more in the morning hours than they do the afternoon. That leaves the midday. Do they move around during the midday? Sure, they do sometimes. But it's not the hottest time that people think. And a lot of times when people are shooting big bucks, they'll say Southern Michigan, for example, small woodlots, a huge number of hunters, they're just getting pushed because people are going to lunch. Not necessarily that they're cruising miles between woodlots and crossing 15 different borders for the fun of it, because they wouldn't get to that age if they did. But so you sit in the morning hours because there's a huge opportunity. Unfortunately, a lot of times people don't know when to get in to a morning stand, and that can cause a lot of problems, because if you go in too early, you spook the buck that's in that bedding area, because morning stands are always related to bedding areas. We'll talk about that and where to sit. But if you...
Raining, dude.
Dang it, we're gonna get wet this afternoon. I gotta hurry up and finish this so we can go hunting, but maybe the rain will keep us out of the woods a little bit. We're going no matter what, right, Dylan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But the problem is, a lot of people don't know, morning might be great. They don't have stands for it. They don't know when. They don't know where. It really relates to bedding areas. If you're going in the morning in a food source, those deer are already there, you're spooking them out. If you go into a bedding area too early in the season, he's already there, you're spooking them out. You're ruining your opportunity. A lot of my best morning stands, I'm thinking over in Wisconsin where I hunt, I haven't even been on that property because I can't wait to go sit a morning stand. I love gun season, muzzleloader season, watching food sources in the afternoon, evening. Great time to kill a monster buck in the area because we have unpressured food sources and they fill in, stockpile into that area, and we can sneak in. They don't even know we're coming, and we can watch and see what comes out. We get some monsters that way. But in the morning hours, great time to hunt. So how do you know when? There's some signs I talk about when the pre-rut's beginning, and I talk about in a couple other videos we've shot today. We like to watch water holes and mock scrapes. When you see mature bucks, and I'm talking about oldest bucks, not that they're just moving at night, that doesn't really mean much. Not that they're making rubs and scrapes, that doesn't mean much either. Not that they're pestering does or even fighting. They do that all October. When you see the oldest bucks in the neighborhood on their feet during mid-morning, that means the pre-rut's beginning. And that, of course, if you're seeing them on their feet with your trail cameras or in person, That means you need to be sitting in your morning stands. There's a definite change. This isn't like, oh, they're moving around in the morning a little bit on the 16th, a little bit on the 10th, and then all of a sudden they're moving a little bit on the 20th, a little bit on the 28th. No, there's a definite change where once they start moving in the morning, unless it's unseasonably warm, unseasonably windy, really noisy, hard rain, thunder, lightning, then they're going to be moving in the morning during the rut. Folks, it's time for the rut, and that means you need to check out my rut web class. It'll help you navigate the entire rut. But more importantly, QuietKat is one of our important partners. And through that partnership, they've offered to clients, people that contact us, an incredible discount and opportunity to buy a new QuietKat. Look for an email that you can contact and the contact information in the description, but I really want to pass that off to you. We don't do that very often, but I want to make sure you guys don't miss out if you're looking and in the market for a new QuietKat. So once the pre-rut begins, that definite switch has happened. I'm focused on my morning stands for the entire rut. Now during the peak rut, I'll hit afternoon stands too. I'll hit afternoon stands in the pre-rut. You can hit them all day. The difference is during the peak rut, I might sit in one stand all day, that perfect X of movement where I wouldn't even expect that deer to be in the pre-rut time. The bottom line is I'm hunting when you see that switch flip. And that switch flipping, bucks are on their feet, mature bucks, the oldest bucks between 10 a.m., 2 p.m. When you see that happening, it's time to hit your morning stands. And that'll be a very definite time. It'll be within a day or two each year, unless it's unseasonably warm and hot. Especially when you see those cold fronts go by. Great time to hit a morning stand. So my favorite morning sits during end of October, early November, are when I go in, and we're in southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, southern Michigan, you know, across that line. When you go in and it's 27 degrees, 26 degrees, boy, it's going to be a hot morning to sit. Those bucks are going to be flying all over the round, all over the place. So that's when you know when to go in. It's not early in the year, and this isn't an all-day set, especially in the first part of the rut. Because if you're sitting all day in a bedding area, those deer are leaving your position and going to food in the afternoon, so it's only good for half the day. You need to get out and go find a food source stand. But that morning, and I'm talking about, I usually sit till between 11 and 1, depending on what I see going on. And so I'm focusing on morning because there's several times more opportunity in the morning once the rut begins, pre-rut. And then how do you know when? I'm looking for those flip of changes of mature buck movement during the day. And then where do I sit? Again, not a food source. If you're sitting on a food source, they're already there in the morning, you spook them and you ruin your hunt for the entire day, probably for a week or more. So I'm waiting to hunt these morning areas for the entire season. And then I'm going in and I'm hunting on the backside of a bedding and I'm walking in away from food. I'm not walking through food to get there. I'm walking well away from it. I don't want to spook anything getting into the stand, and I'm waiting for those deer to come back. And if you set it up right, you'll find that this time of year, because the bucks are so active when day breaks, they might be a quarter mile away when day breaks, and they're just coming back to their beds. You might not see them till 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30, 11. Those are great times during the rut to start seeing deer back by a bedding area because it takes a while for them to get back there. If you're hunting in an area where they're flying by right at daybreak, move a lot deeper into the woods, probably 300-400 yards. It means they're being spooked off the food sources. You don't want to be in that location, or you spooked them yourselves. And you want to make sure that you're being patient and you're allowing those deer to come back to you. And it might seem like for the first hour or two, boy, this is a dud morning. And then all of a sudden you see 26 deer and 5 bucks because it was that kind of morning. You waited till a cold morning. You're sitting on the outside of the bedding area, not in the bedding area. You want to live to hunt another day. What I mean by that is you're hunting on the downwind side of the bedding area. You have multiple stands, multiple options so that you can get in. And it might even be, we have a lot of bedding areas where you can go in from one way or another way, depending on which way the winds are going and where we think deer are at first thing in the morning. We get in on that side of the bedding area, this side of the bedding area. We wait for those deer to come back. So you have multiple stand locations, but you're not intruding on the middle part of the bedding area. And that way you can, if there's a big buck in there and you missed him this time, didn't get to see him, well, you can go try to get him 2 days, 3 days later in a different stand with a different wind. You wait for him to come back. You exercise a lot of patience. So why? Again, great time, great opportunities. Look for that switch flipping and then where to sit outside of bedding or even between bedding areas. Now it gets into the peak rut. and those bucks can be moving anytime, anywhere, that's where I might sit in that perfect X movement between bedding and food. We're still in thick cover. You can imagine a mature buck being there at any time during the day, but he's moving a lot between food and cover because he's searching for does hard. He's already bred a couple does in his core area. Now he's really moving around. You don't know when. That's kind of that all-day sit. You'll sneak into that. You're still getting to that location by not spoiling the food source, and you're going around to get into that location. Is it time to sit a morning stand? It's the 19th of October here. We sat our first stand this morning in the morning. And last year it was our first morning sit too on October 19th. Just happens. We're creatures of habit, I guess. We didn't even know it until Dylan told me that this morning. Did you have something come up on Facebook of memories or something, or you just remembered?
It's a very familiar date when I'm in editing. October 19th. There's one clip I use all the time from October 19th.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool time to be in the woods, and you can bet from now on we're starting to more and more hit our morning stands, especially when you see the cold fronts. We see some cold fronts next week happening. I think, Dylan, you told me it was going to be a difference of maybe 49 down to 40 from morning to morning. That's Saturday morning to Sunday morning. So Sunday morning will be a great time to sit. Even though it's 40 degrees, there's a 10-degree drop from morning to morning, even though the daytime highs are similar. So look for those morning drops this time of year, even if the daytime highs are similar. Look for that. If we see a 10-degree drop from one day to the next, that's pretty substantial. And boy, it's time to hit the morning stands. I hit mornings all rut. I hit mornings during gun season openers. In fact, I usually sit all day in a location. Might flip to another stand like I did last year in Minnesota. And then I hunt mornings again in the second rut in early December. The rest of the time, I'm primarily focusing on afternoon hunts and making sure I don't spook the deer within the entire movement. And that's the name of the game. So we can manage our sits and the areas we hunt for all season long, like you should be too. And that'll put you on your target buck year in, year out, even without a lot of sits. You're just being smart and you're managing your hunt in the location that you hunt, whether it's on public or private land, instead of going all in for broke and failing most of the time. Instead, you can succeed most of the time, hunt smart, be patient, and hunt season long. And these are the times right now that I start focusing on the morning, and you should too. I appreciate you guys watching the YouTube channel, but I don't know if everyone knows everything that we have to offer, whether it's on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, our website, or WHS Wildlife Blends, our seed company. Also Instagram you can check out. I'm very active on Instagram, putting strategies on there, photos of what we do every day. Much more active there than Facebook. But our seed, web classes, books, clients, articles. I have over 600 articles on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, everything whitetail strategy. Of course, we have hats on there, and then make sure to check us out on Instagram again. But lots of stuff to offer. We're always coming out with new things, and this isn't the end of it. We have more things coming soon. Make sure to check us out.